My body turned so cold upon hearing that song that I began to shake. It was not coming from within my closet or my room, but from somewhere far distant in the house. Frightened as I was, I had to know. I got out of bed and, lighting my candle, carried it to the door. Teru-de-ne, came the melody from the floor below. I went out into the hall. Was I the only one who could hear it? Slowly, I descended the long staircase, holding the candle far out in front of me to light my path. More slowly still, I crossed the hall when I reached the bottom and entered the parlor. The moonlight through the window illuminated the rose-colored chair by the writing table, the brandy cupboard, the cushions, and the clock. It shone as well on the grand piano, and taking another step so as to get a closer look, I saw the hand, the severed hand, fingering the keys. The music stopped, and the hand turned, as if looking right at me. With a small cry, I fled the room. Still holding the candle, I stumbled up the stairs, tripping over my nightgown. Teru-de-ne, teru-de-nu, came the last strains of the song, and then all was still. In bed at last, my head beneath the covers, I hugged myself to keep from shaking. I heard other footsteps in the hall, the low voice of Uncle Jeffrey, a door opening, the murmurs from Mrs. Hastings. The footsteps came toward my room and then stopped right outside my door. But finally, they returned from whence they came, and the house fell quiet again. For me, however, it did not seem there would ever be peace again. I had awakened the ghost of Jade Green by bringing her color in along with my trunk, and now it seemed I had loosed her upon the house. Whatever would become of us, only the Lord knows. The following day being Sunday, I stayed in bed late, having slept so poorly towards the end of the night. I came downstairs to find Mrs. Hastings and my uncle having their breakfast out in the garden. Charles rarely came in for breakfast on Sundays, and I looked forward to this one morning of the week I was free of my cousin's looks and comments. This time, however, still shaky from the events of the previous night, I would have preferred eating alone. But when Mrs. Hastings saw me in the kitchen, she motioned me to join them. I took my muffin out to the table and sat down beside my uncle. "Good morning, Uncle Jeffrey. And to you also, Mrs. Hastings." "And a pleasant good morning to you, my girl," Mrs. Hastings replied, studying my face. "And how did you sleep?" "It was a fitful night, but I managed," I replied. Uncle Jeffrey was watching me also. "Has it ever been said, Judith, that you've been given to sleepwalking? That you perhaps walk about in your sleep and do things you might not remember doing in the morning?" I tried to make light of it. "If I did, Uncle, I'm sure I would be the last to know. You do not remember going downstairs last night and playing a song on the piano?" "How should I remember if I had?" I asked. "But why do you ask?" "Only that we both seem to have heard the piano playing last night, and also the floor creaking down at your end of the hall. When we came out to see, however, your door was closed and you were abed," said Mrs. Hastings. And then, turning to my uncle, she added, "Well, Mr. Sparrow, perhaps old age is catching up with us, eh? Guess we were just imagining things." Oh, how I wanted to tell the dear woman that she was not mistaken at all, that it had not been I at the piano, but the ghostly hand of Jade Green. Yet I could not bring myself to do it, for I would have to confess the green picture frame I brought into the house. Coward that I was, I feared I should be then turned out of the only home I knew. In the days that followed, I heard no more music at night, nor did I see the hand. Indeed, summer had burst upon whispers in such a profusion of flowers, a burst of heat, and a blanket of humidity that I felt myself to be in a jungle. At the hat shop, Violet and I worked with the front and back doors open so as to provide a breeze. Violet was teaching me how to sew on a hat band without any stitches showing, and I took pride in the needlework almost as fine as hers. One Sunday, Zeke stopped by and invited me to accompany him to go to the cove to do some fishing. I wondered he should ever want to see me again, so silly had I been in the garden the day I gave him my picture. But he insisted I come, and Mrs. Hastings said it would do me good. She advised me to wear my oldest frock and gave me her rubber bathing sandals so that I can protect my feet upon the rocks. We intended to walk to the ocean this time and appeared to be going on expedition with fishing gear, picnic hamper, parasol, blanket, and sandals. "You seem in a good mood," Zeke said to me as we sauntered along the shady street. "I am. I think I am in a better mood today than I have been since I came to Whispers." That pleased him, I could tell. "Then I might be the one who has caused it," he said, smiling. "You?" I cried, laughing. "And what has it to do with you?" "Why, think how disappointed you are when I'm not there to drive you home in the wagon. How your face lights up when you see me coming." It does not," I said, swinging the parasol at him. But then, as we turned the corner off into a narrow dirt lane, our shoulders brushed together as we walked, and Zeke made no effort to pull away, nor did I. I thought how very true he spoke, and we grew quiet, not with awkwardness, but with the pleasure of just being together. Away from the Sparrow home, I strove to forget the hand, and there were even times I almost convinced myself that I had imagined it. Almost, but not quite. The cove was back from the ocean, so that the rocks near the water's edge took the brunt of the pounding waves. But once they broke, the water rolled more languidly into the cove, and there it shimmered peacefully in the afternoon sun, as seagulls soared overhead and the ocean breeze fanned my face. Was there ever a place more lovely than this? I wondered. For a time, Zeke fished, and I made a willing audience as he showed me his lures. In the first hour, he caught 2 fish. "One for each of us," he said. But then I wandered off, climbing around barefoot over the moss-covered rocks, lying face down on their cool surface to explore the dark crevices between them with my hand. Mrs. Hastings' rubber slippers proved too large for me, and one came off and was washed out into the surf. I could not help but laugh as Zeke propped his fishing pole into the sand and went galloping out into the water to retrieve it, his trousers soaked. When he returned to me, his clothes dripping, I was bent doubled with laughter, and the next thing I knew, I was in his arms, and he took me out into the water, despite my laughing screams, and dunked me in the surf. Breaking free of him, and my clothes now clinging to my body, I splashed back to shore with Zeke behind me, where we both collapsed on the blanket. I was wringing out the hem of my dress, wiping my bare legs with my hand, when I happened to glance up at the rocks above and was startled to see Cousin Charles looking grimly down at us. I was too surprised to say anything. He said nothing either. With narrowed eyes, he simply observed me there on the blanket with Zeke, and then he quietly walked away.